All right, let's talk about one of India's biggest unsolved mysteries. It's a place you've probably never heard of, but it's absolutely steeped in history and tragedy.
It's a place locals say is haunted, scientists can't quite figure out, and historians are still scratching their heads over. We're talking about the Amarda Road Airstrip, a place that's earned itself a pretty chilling nickname, India's Bermuda Triangle.
So, how in the world does an old airstrip get a name like that? Well, to figure it out, we've got to go way back. Back to a time when this now forgotten patch of land was, believe it or not, right in the middle of a world changing conflict.
Yep, our story kicks off during World War II. This quiet corner of India suddenly found itself playing a huge, critical role in the war effort.
So, picture this, it's the early 1940s. The war against Japan is raging over in Burma. The British desperately need bases in eastern India to support the fight, and that's how Amarda Road goes from a quiet village to a massive strategic airbase. We're talking a huge hub for the Royal Air Force, just buzzing with thousands of pilots, engineers, you name it. These guys were getting ready for missions that were absolutely vital to winning the war. And when I say massive, I mean it. Get this, the runway was over 3 kilometers long. That is huge. It was one of the biggest airstrips in all of eastern India at the time. I mean, it had to be, right? It was built to launch and land those giant heavy bombers and transport planes that were so crucial back then. Everything is going according to plan. The base is a success. But then, one day in 1945, right when the end of the war is in sight, something goes terribly wrong. Something that would change Amarda Road forever and kickstart this whole mystery. Let's set the scene. It's May 26th, 1945. The war in Europe is over. Victory was declared just a few weeks before this, so you can imagine there's this feeling that the end is finally near. But the work isn't done. The training flights, the missions, they all had to continue. And on this particular day, 2 planes take off from the runway. One's a Dakota DC-3, that's a transport plane, and the other is a B-24 Liberator, a big bomber. And their mission? It was supposed to be completely routine, just a simple training flight. And here's the thing, everything was perfect. I mean, perfect. You've got experienced, veteran pilots. The planes are checked out, they're in great shape. And the weather? Crystal clear, not a cloud in the sky. Seriously, on paper, this was a textbook flight. What could possibly go wrong? So I ask you, what went wrong? How did 2 planes with top-notch crews in perfect flying conditions just fall out of the sky? That's the question that has haunted this place for decades. Because just minutes after takeoff, the unthinkable happens. There was no warning, no distress call, nothing. The 2 planes just collided, midair. A massive, fiery explosion over the forest below, and then just silence. And the cost was just devastating. 14 men. All 14 airmen on those 2 planes were killed instantly. Not a single survivor. So in the aftermath, the official report just calls it a training accident. But that explanation, it just didn't add up for a lot of people. I mean, perfect conditions, veteran pilots, it felt wrong. And as the war wrapped up and the base was eventually abandoned, that's when the whispers started. The strange stories began to bubble up, and a military tragedy started turning into something else, a local legend. And these weren't just one-off stories. It was a pattern. People started seeing these weird glowing orbs hovering over the old airstrip, mysterious lights zipping through the sky, making turns that no plane could make. Fishermen out on the water would report their compasses going haywire. And then there were the sounds. A faint hum of old airplane engines in the dead of night. And the creepiest part? People swore they saw men wandering the area in old RAF uniforms who would just vanish. Okay, so what is going on here? What could possibly explain all of this weirdness, which, by the way, people still report today? Let's break down the main theories. All right, so you've basically got 3 camps fighting it out. First, you have the legend, right? The idea that the spirits of those 14 airmen are still there, haunting the place where they died. Then you have the scientific explanation. This one's interesting. It suggests there might be natural magnetic fields in the area, maybe from certain types of rock, or even buried military equipment from the war that's causing all this electronic interference. And of course, you've got the skeptics who say, look, people are just seeing things, mistaking swamp gas for orbs or hearing the wind and thinking it's an engine. But here's what makes this so compelling. It's not just old folklore. This is happening now. People who go out there today,
YouTubers, urban explorers, drone hobbyists, they report the same weird stuff. Their GPS just cuts out for no reason. Drones will literally lose connection and just drop out of the sky. Even the compass on your smartphone will start spinning like crazy if you get too close to that runway. So something is definitely going on. So here we are today. The Amarda Road airstrip is mostly forgotten. It's just this long, concrete scar on the land, with nature slowly taking it back. But even though it's quiet, the questions are louder than ever. So, was it really just a tragic freak accident? A simple mid-air collision? Are we supposed to believe that two expert crews just weren't paying attention on a perfectly clear day? It just feels incomplete. Or was something else at play? Something we can't see, something that our logic just can't explain. Was there some kind of invisible force, some strange interference that pushed those two planes together? And for me, this is the biggest question of all. Forget the ghost for a second. Why do modern electronics still go haywire around that site, almost 80 years later? What could possibly be causing that? The truth is, we might never really know. The official records from the war are thin, and science still doesn't have a concrete answer. And that leaves Amarda Road as this strange, unsettling place. A place where the past isn't really past. A place where time feels frozen, and history is anything but quiet.